Hello again, I am Blunty. This is Hound, seen here in his most recent incarnation in the Siege War for Cybertron line. The PR peeps looking after Hasbro here in Aussieland emailed me a few weeks back and said, "Hey, Blunty, you want to look at some Transformers stuff?" And despite not being a guy who does the toy review YouTuber thing, I am, however, a big and OG Transformers fan and have never stopped being a Transformers fan, except for the Unicorn trilogy, but ugh. So I, of course, said, yes, please tell Hasbro to send me some Transformers things. There's nothing about that idea that I don't like. And I feel like it's a good bet that a lot of you are Transformers fans too. There's also a pretty good chance that many of you out there who, like me, are OG G1 Transformers fans might have kids of your own by now that you want to share the love with. So I hope you find this change of pace here on the channel as fun as I do, because I'm having fun. Now, Hound is an Autobot with an important yet remarkably understated position in Transformers history. In the earliest days of the franchise, way back in September 1984, as it was being birthed onto our screens via a 3-part miniseries called Transformers More Than Meets the Eye, Hound played one of the most important roles. And I'm not just talking about how he was one of the original cast in 1984, or a core member of Optimus Prime's crew aboard the Ark, or even how he was one of the first to be sent out to explore Earth on reconnaissance looking for Decepticons. Now, Hound was important because he was the first Transformer to develop a friendship with a human, Spike Witwicky. And that made him a pivotal main character in the original cartoon pilot miniseries, which very quickly led to the ongoing show. And a great many childhoods the planet over would never be the same again. And it was through this friendship between Hound and Spike that we, the audience, first started to learn about the Transformers and Cybertron and the war that was devastating the home and what brought them to Earth and the adventures they would have. Hound also fought one of my all-time favourite Transformers in that very same miniseries, but we'll maybe get back to that some other time if I can convince Hasbro to send me one of his toys. When the show did go to series, though, Hound was somewhat sidelined. Bumblebee replaced him as Witwicky's best pal. Perhaps the writers and producers thought the younger, inexperienced scout, clawing desperately for approval from his figure of authority, Optimus Prime, and to prove his own worth and to grow up and figure out who he was more relatable to the young audience. And perhaps they were right. We all love Bumblebee, don't we? But Hound, even still, through the next 2 seasons, was still a cast regular, and while frequently playing important roles in the conflicts with the Decepticons, and almost always by tricking the Decepticons with his special ability to create lifelike holographic images, he never again really got the spotlight in his own right as he did in the pilot miniseries. And since then, Hound, either in his original G1 form, or with another Cybertronian carrying his name but having no other relation to him, as happened frequently in shows like the Unicorn trilogy, has barely appeared in most media since. Then in the Michael Bay live-action movieverse, we got 2 very different Hounds. One in the PSP tie-in game, where he, spoiler alert, died. And again, in later movies, an utterly different robot carrying his name in Age of Extinction and Last Night. And outside of John Goodman's ever-entertaining voice work, I didn't really like the character or the design in the movies much. But coming back to Generation 1, Hound's original toy, like most of the earliest Transformers, started life in the Japanese toy line called Diaclone, with a Mitsubishi Jeep alternative mode. Hasbro brought him across the pond, called him Hound, and had Marvel Comics' Bob Beninsky write a biography for him. And I just happened to have an original 1987 print of the Transformers Universe book, which details more than 100 of these original Transformers bios and powers and personalities. Hounds Profile reads, "Hound would just as soon be sniffing around the Grand Canyon, or Big Sur, as he would a secret Decepticon base. Perhaps more than any other Autobot, Hound takes pleasure in being on Earth. Unlike his home planet, which is entirely composed of metal and machinery, he finds the natural wonders of Earth endlessly fascinating, and uses his topographical skills to store every sight he sees within his memory circuits. Hound's bravery, fearlessness, and loyalty are unwavering, like any good advanced scout. But his secret desire is to be human." So how about that? This Cybertronian, this Autobot, loves Earth, wants to be human. It's Pinocchio with laser guns. As a kid, I had Hound's original toy. The Jeep mode looked awesome, I thought, but I never did like how the low positioning of his shoulders in robot mode, or his stumpy little arms, made him look. I mean, sure, as an alien robot, there was no need for him to conform to truly human arrangements, but it was just one of those things that always looked a bit too odd to my eye, and so I never really played much with Hound in robot mode. However, This new Deluxe class figure of Gen 1 Hound in the Siege War for Cybertron line looks great in both modes, don't you think? And the transformation sequence feels good too. A little fiddly, but then all the best Transformers always were just a little bit fiddly to transform, weren't they? That's where some of the fun was as a kid, being the kid who knew the tricky transformation sequences and could do it flawlessly and by heart, and in the case of a couple of my toys, blindfolded. Yeah, I was that kid in the playground. But I think this time I'll keep Hound in robot mode. The vehicle mode seems nice enough, I like it fine, and perhaps it's just simple nostalgia, but I do prefer the classic Jeep over this more modernized take. But mainly it's because the robot mode is more posable than Kid Blunty could have ever dreamed for back in the Gen 1 days. And my whole life, kid or adult, I have found small joys in action posing my figures and toys. And to some consternation, my roommates' figures and toys. I used to live with a guy who had a really cool Spider-Man toy. I would repose it every day and drive him insane with it. I was that kid too. Now, as an OG Transformers fan, as someone with very fond memories of Hound and how he was used to first introduce us to the world of Transformers, and as one of the toys I myself originally owned from that very first line of Transformers toys, and now again as a good-looking, fun-to-pose modern incarnation directly inspired by his original form, and as a photography nerd and reviewer who has often used figures and toys as subjects while testing or just playing with cameras for close-up or macro work or just for fun times or lighting or whatever, a figure that looks this good and poses this well? Well, there's nothing I'm not liking about Hound's Deluxe class figure in the Transformers Siege War for Cybertron line, except for the mouthful that is to say. Hound Deluxe class figure Transformers Siege War for Cybertron. It's come on. Can we just call it Siege? I'm going to call it Siege. And I do hope, by the way, that this toy means Hound gets some much overdue limelight again in next year's animated show from Netflix, also called Transformers War for Cybertron. You didn't know that was coming, didn't you guys? Well, it is, and I'm excited. I wonder if they've cast the voice actors for it yet. Do you think Hound should have an Aussie accent like mine? Or maybe a voice exactly like mine? Okay, now what I have to do is look at the rest of the Siege line and fantasize about which character I would like to voice most in the alternate reality where I am a voice actor of some repute and not a huge nerd making YouTube videos about Transformers toys. Can you imagine it though? I am Hound, Autobot from Cybertron. Look out, Optimus! Stone the crows, mate! I turn into a Jeep now! That's my official audition. Hasbro, you listening? Thanks for watching. I am Blunty. No. Thanks for watching. I am Hound. Tune in next time for another exciting episode of Transformers Siege War for Cybertron.